Hello, my name is Matthew from Core Healing, and today I want to do a demonstration about the belief code. I'm going to do that demonstration myself, and I'll show you how the belief code works, how it's a little bit different. It's obviously the next level up from the emotion code and the body code, which it does include those two modalities in it as well. So we're getting almost like on a bigger scale, a bigger picture, so we can get sometimes a better result with your healing. So with the belief code, the intention of the belief code is to remove subconscious belief systems. And obviously, as you might be aware, our subconscious holds onto these belief systems. And usually these are a lot of disempowering belief systems. And they create these automated patterns in our life that keep us sometimes stuck in a loop, sometimes powerless, sometimes feeling like we need to prove ourselves, all those different things. So when we start to release these belief patterns, it helps change our perception of the world, because obviously these beliefs have been usually ingrained from a very young age, of how the world works and how to keep safe as such, how to get love, how to feel worthy of love, and how to keep safe, as I said. And with these beliefs and these beliefs, what they do is they create a perception of the world. So when we start to remove these subconscious beliefs, what we're doing is we're starting to peel away back. And so like a set of lenses, like a set of glasses we have on, that we can only see the world in a certain way, or we're seeing the world in a certain way through these beliefs. And because we're seeing the world in a certain way, because of these beliefs, then our actions, our behaviors are almost like reinforcing those beliefs sometimes. And that's why it's very hard to change sometimes a negative belief system or a habit as such. A lot of these times, these beliefs are habits we've created through thought, that we've affirmed that this belief is truth, and we've programmed that deep into the subconscious. So, as I said, with these beliefs, they help us change our lenses to help us see what is the real truth. Sometimes, as a young child, we've had to make up things to protect ourselves. So, peeling back these layers allows us to see the world as it is, see the world that we are lovable, we are valuable to the world, we are safe in this world. And obviously, when we allow those lenses to see that we're safe, we're lovable, that we belong, we're feeling much safer. We take ourselves out of that stress. We're out of the fight or flight, and we're into growth or repair. And this is when we can start to grow. We can start to heal ourselves. So very important, the belief systems that we clear, and to be able to allow growth, allow healing in our life. And yeah, it's really, really powerful way of doing things. So I'm just going to explain the process. So before a session, so I'm using the muscle testing, and you'll see on the left-hand side, these are charts here with over 2,000 beliefs in this chart. So when I do a session with a client, so I'll set the intention before the session to connect with their energy before I come on. And what you see now is exactly what you'll see if you work with us and do a session with us on a belief code session. So I'm using the muscle testing. I'm connecting to other people's energy. So obviously today I'm doing this on myself. But I'll show you the method I use. It's just on my finger. So if I tap my finger, it's a yes or a true. And if it goes weak, it's a no or a false answer. So what I'm doing is going through the charts here, getting the beliefs, and what we call a belief system. So this belief system is made up of 3 to 4 layers. So the first layer is a layer of negative programs. So there's usually 3 to 4 on average negative programs. The next layer down is limiting beliefs. So there's usually 2 to 3 limiting beliefs. And we usually have a single faulty core belief. And the faulty core identity, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. It just uses muscle testing to guide us. And all these are just on average what we usually get, but sometimes they do, like, things do go, things are a little bit different. So, and just I always leave things open to the subconscious. Whatever it needs to release, and we just go with it and trust that. So once I identify these beliefs, as you'll see in a minute, what we're going to do is, the next step is go to the associated imbalances. And what I do is switch over to the body code charts, which is another set of charts very similar to the belief code. And we're getting into these associated imbalances. So basically these associated imbalances are what's anchoring these beliefs in. Sometimes these are emotions or other types of energies. So you often use the emotion code chart in this session and clearing out emotions, but also other different types of energies as well can be can be essentially anchoring these beliefs in place. So I'll clear those associated imbalances as I go. And once I clear those associated imbalances and clear that energy away, then I go back to the belief system and I start clearing the negative beliefs. And once I clear those negative beliefs, the part of the process is basically to close the subconscious gap. So when we remove a negative belief system from the subconscious, we're leaving a gap in our energy field. So I'm just going to set the intention to close that gap up after the session. And then at the end, I'll see if there's any new empowering beliefs we can install. So obviously when we're seeing the world through empowering beliefs, obviously we're creating more empowering things into our life. So it can be a lot different. All right, so I'm going to get into it. And the focus of the session, so usually with the session, we'll focus on a specific topic. A lot of topics I like to work on with the belief code session. Some of the most popular ones I like to work on, I am safe, because obviously safety, when we feel safe, our body can heal and repair itself. A lot of the time, people just don't feel safe in their own body, safe in their environment. So we're peeling back the lenses to help allow you to see there is safety sometimes in your environment. We've just got to allow ourselves to see it. Sometimes another big one I work on is I'm valuable, I'm powerful, all those sorts of, I'm free, I have freedom, those sorts of beliefs. I like to work on the positive side. Today we'll work on the sort of the negative side, but I like to work a lot towards the positive side and creating what we want in the future. But I tested today, and I tested on myself what to work on. And the statement that came up was I need to be tough and impenetrable. So it's a belief that emotionally I need to be tough and strong, and it's definitely something that when I muscle tested and it came up, I was like, okay, I never worked on this one before, but I know this pattern is definitely there. And this was often modeled by my parents. My parents were very, my dad, especially my dad, probably very strong emotionally and never really showed any emotions. So that's probably where I modeled that behavior. It's almost like, how do we deal with things? It's almost like we just don't let anybody know what's going on inside us. So obviously when we're doing this, it's where, when we're trying to protect ourselves emotionally, it creates a build up of all these sometimes trapped emotions, but a lot of the time trapped energies that we're not able to communicate how we're feeling, or not able to be shown how we're feeling. And often this comes back down to safety. Maybe going through like having parents, maybe it was my dad's parents or my mum's parents that maybe if they were emotional, they were punished for being emotional. They were they feared losing love for being emotional. So sometimes when those things happen from our parents, we have to shut ourselves off and essentially just to keep ourselves safe. So we'll see where this comes today. See where this goes today with this session, and I'll explain more as I go around this as well, and what comes up. And usually with this session, I'll get an age, so I can usually figure out a pattern that emerges during the session. It gives us a greater level of awareness as well. What's going on for me? What's causing this, so I can understand it better. And obviously, in my client sessions, it helps you understand what's causing these issues. What's the underlying things that are going to give you the awareness to be able to change these. Sometimes when we have that conscious awareness, we're able to change it consciously. We stop ourselves going into those same behaviors, the same reactions. And it makes it easier when we're removing some of the energies that are behind it. But sometimes we can get to a point where we can consciously start to change things and reprogram in an empowering way. All right, so I'm going to get the first negative program that's aligned with this this topic. Okay, so the first negative program is I give in to get approval. I'm going to get an age. So this one is from age 4. So this belief is originating from self. So I've made this belief up myself. Another way we can have a belief is a suggestion. So somebody else suggests a certain belief. And another way is inherited. So this one our parents have, and they get passed down to us at conception and can go back further. So this one I give in to get approval. And obviously this is sometimes putting our emotions aside to be able to I'm giving in and not feeling what I need to feel. I'm not getting what I want, but I just want my parents' approval. So sometimes to get my parents' approval, that was to be tough and impenetrable and feel like if I was treated if I was treated unfairly, I'll just almost like giving in and not standing up for myself. And I just do that in order essentially to keep myself safe. So this one really resonates with me. I give in to get approval. It's almost like I don't want to create a conflict or a confrontation because of that sense that I'll lose my parents' love. I'll lose, and at age 4, obviously, when we lose our parents' love, we lose our parents' safety. So we need to have that approval in order to feel safe. So giving in to sometimes our own needs and not expressing our own needs and being tough and impenetrable and acting like, okay, it's okay that that things are not fair. And sometimes it comes down to a deeper value. I'm not valuable or I'm not important. Enough to have my needs valued, enough to have my needs met. All right, so that's all we need to know around this one. Okay, so I'm going to get the next negative program. Okay, so we're in the topic of sabotage. Okay, so this one is I don't deserve happiness. Okay, so this one is inherited. It's inherited from my mum's side. So it's obviously something my mum's felt sometime between the time she was born and the time I was conceived, and that belief has been passed down at conception from my mum to me, and that one does resonate as well. It's almost like I feel like I'm going away from happiness, and sometimes needing to be tough and impenetrable. It's not so much. It's one part. It's feeling like trying to block out the negative emotion, but sometimes it's also part of blocking out the sense of allowing ourselves to be happy, allowing ourselves to be joyous, because sometimes we don't want to put other people out that maybe we think can't feel love or joy themselves, or happiness themselves. So we have to we have to box up and suppress our own happiness, our own joy, our own love, because of those other people. We don't want to make them feel like, because maybe we think they can't have it, we don't want to almost like rub it in their face. So again, it comes back to safety. All right, so we've got another negative program. Okay, so this next one is I need to rescue others. And this one is, it's almost like getting this feeling I need to put my own needs aside for others. It's almost like I need others. For me, this is others' needs are more important than mine, and I'll suppress my own needs and I'll be tough and impenetrable. But I'll use that and use that ability to rescue others, and that's essentially keeping me safe as well. Okay, so this one comes up from age 15. And it has originated from self. Okay, so that's all we need to know around that one. All right, so we don't have any more negative programs. So I'm going to go to the next layer down, the limiting beliefs. Okay, so this next one is I deserve to suffer. And sometimes this is a sense of like, if I'm not doing the right thing, I deserve to suffer. I deserve to be punished if I'm like, maybe if I ask for what I want and somebody else doesn't believe I should get it, then it's almost like I feel like sometimes I feel like that sense of I shouldn't have asked. I wasn't deserving of asking, and I deserve to suffer for almost like asking, or almost like putting somebody else out because of my own needs. Okay, so this one is age 4, and again, it's originated from self. And I feel like, again, what I'm getting coming through, and I work in the sessions, and you find this when I work with you, I'm very intuitive and very get a sense of feeling around being in that situation. And sometimes it is through images that pop into my head. Sometimes it's through words popping into my head. But a lot of time it's very much a sensing or feeling of being in that situation. And what's taking me back now is a sense of, I like, it's almost like I didn't deserve to ask. And I feel like almost like that belief I don't deserve happiness. I feel like that's almost like obviously it's connected through this belief system, but it's also resonating along that. It's almost like if I'm asking for something that's maybe going to make me happy, or I'm asking for something that I need or I want, and I feel like I'm getting that rejection, or I don't deserve that. And it's almost like people saying no. It's almost like, well, now I believe I deserve to suffer because I'm not good enough to have what I want. And then obviously when we don't have what I want, we feel very low, and we feel very upset. And when we feel upset, maybe that's like, for me, I didn't really feel safe showing my anger or frustration, or showing that I was upset as a kid, because again, that's how my parents didn't model that behavior, showing emotion. So essentially I need to be tough and impenetrable to show that, what, I'm not hurting, even though it's deep down I'm hurting, but to other people on the outside, I need to prove to them that I'm not hurting. I'm okay with it. And what happens is we tolerate that through our life. We tolerate our own needs not being important. And when we tolerate our own needs not being important, we start to put everybody else's needs before ours, and we don't allow ourselves to have that happiness. We don't allow ourselves to have what we want, because and we suffer because we're there at everybody else's needs, and we don't look after ourselves. All right, so I'm going to get this next limiting belief. Okay, so we've got, this one is around worth. And this one is, I constantly need to prove myself. So again, age 4, this one's come up. And again, it's originated from self. And it's almost like I need to prove my value to others. I need to prove it. And this thing, when we need to prove something to somebody else, it means that we don't value ourselves. We're valuing ourselves off other people's perceptions of us. And often we're already perceiving that the other person doesn't value us, and we have to prove to them that we're worthy of their love, of their safety, all those sorts of things. So got to remember, every action you take to prove yourself is essentially affirming to the universe that you don't value yourself, and we're looking at our own value through other people's eyes and not our own eyes. Very important thing to, like, if you're feeling stuck at the moment and you're trying to prove yourself to get away, even if you're trying to prove yourself to yourself, it doesn't have to always be other people. If you're trying to prove yourself to yourself, it's just basically affirming to the universe that I'm not worthy, or I'm not deserving, or I don't have that self-value. And I can't have it until I prove myself. And the thing is, we get stuck in the loop because we're affirming that we're not good enough. We have to prove ourselves. Every action you take to prove yourself is just almost like cementing that low self-value in. So stop proving yourself and make sure that you value yourself. That's all you can do. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone. You are valuable as you are. Start to see the value in yourself, and create your own value. Okay. All right, so we don't have another limiting belief, so I'm going to move on to the faulty core belief. Okay, so this one is, I'm too stupid. So this one is inherited. It's inherited from my dad. And with this belief inherited from dad, it's one that sometimes if we feel like we're not good enough, I'm too stupid, I have to constantly prove myself, prove my worth. And it becomes very difficult to create things in our life, create things that we want, because we feel like we're not good enough to have them, we're not smart enough. So now I'm going to check for a faulty core identity. And with this belief system, there's no faulty core identity associated with it. So I'm going to move across now and get the associated imbalances. So I'm going to switch to the body code chart, and we're going to look for the associated imbalances that are anchoring these beliefs in place. So I'm going to get the first associated imbalance. Okay, so first associated imbalance is what we call a despair anchor. So as you can see with these sessions, it's great we're able to see what imbalances come up, and you can get to pause the video at any time, read more about the imbalances that come up. So with this despair anchor, it's essentially like a belief, but it's not as far as stuck in a belief system. It's more of a standalone belief. So we've got a chart here. I'm going to get the despair anchor. Okay, so this one is I don't know anything. It's very interesting. Despair could come up considering what we came up with the last one. I'm too stupid. So I'm going to see where this comes up. Okay, so this one is inherited from my dad again. So along that same path there, as the faulty core belief, I'm stupid. All right, so we don't need to know any more about that. And I'm going to go clear this negative belief out now. So when I'm, this despair anchor. So when I'm clearing these energies out, I'm just using my magnet and I'm swiping with my governing meridian, which runs just from the top of my lip there, over my nose, straight down the middle of my head, down to the base of my spine. So opening up that energy channel, that meridian, and setting the intention to clear that energy out. And when I do the inherited ones, I'm setting the intention to release it from anybody past, present, or future as well. So hopefully this will release from my dad and anybody else around in my family who may have passed this energy may have passed down to. So I'm going to clear this one. Okay, so I've cleared that and just double check that it's all cleared, and it has. So I'm going to move on to the next associated imbalance. Okay, so next one is a broadcast message. So again, this is a broadcast message is similar to a belief, but with the broadcast message, it's a message where or subconscious, we're trying to broadcast out and communicate, sometimes energetically. Sometimes we might not have don't feel like we have the power or the safety to be able to communicate this message, and we try and get it out energetically in some way, but it can often bring in situations, people, events into our life that make this come true, make this message seem true in our perspective. Okay, so this broadcast message is treat me like a child. And again, this one is inherited from my dad. And looking at obviously the last two that come up, I don't know anything, I'm too stupid. It's almost like treat me like a child, because a child is like, sometimes we see a child doesn't know as much as intellectually, doesn't know as much as maybe an adult in that experience does. So sometimes wanting to be treated like a child because maybe not understanding things and whatnot. So very interesting, like that sort of very much lines up with the last couple of things. And it's quite funny myself. Like I've always felt like a child as such. I always felt like I'm looking up at people, and even people my own age. I'm like, because we obviously sometimes we look in the mirror, but we have that sense of feeling and looking at other people and like, wow, you're old, but it's almost like feeling like a kid sometimes. And looking at other people, especially as I said, around our own age, like we're younger than them. Like it's almost like we're looking up to them, almost like as a parent, like as a kid when we saw people who were around like my age now, say 39. Like that was my parents' age around when I was like I think it was about 8 or 9. That was around my parents' age when they were there, and around that 8, 9, 10 years old, and just looking up and like I'm still seeing people who look like that now as maybe through the eyes of that 10-year-old self as such. All right, so I'm going to release this one. So that energy is cleared. Okay, so our next imbalance is a common trapped emotion. And the emotion here is worthless. So we'll get an age. So this one has come up age 4. So similar age to the ones that have come up already. Okay, so I'm getting this, as far as this emotion of worthless is I'm feeling worthless because of mum. So my mum has made me feel that sense of worthless. But obviously with the trapped emotions, we feel like we have to trap these because sometimes we don't feel like we can express ourselves like this. Obviously what we're working on today, I need to be tough and impenetrable. It's almost like I've been made to feel worthless, but basically what I've said and done here, I deserve to suffer. I need to prove myself. If I have that sense of feeling worthless, then I feel like I need to prove my worth to others. So having that sense of worthless connected with what's come up today, deserving to suffer and needing to prove myself and giving in to get approval, very much makes sense. And what, for me growing up, what occurred. So I don't need to know anything more about this one. So I'm going to clear out this trapped emotion. Okay, so that one is cleared. All right, so there are all the associated imbalances that are connected with that belief system. So next step is going back and clearing these negative beliefs now. So I do this all in one go, but I'm setting the intention individually. So I'll end up swiping about 20 to 30 times, but I'm just intentionally setting the intention to release these ones individually. And I just roll these all in together. So I'm just going to do that process now. Okay, so they're all cleared. So just test that, must test it, make sure everything is cleared, and it has. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to close the subconscious gap. So now I've removed that energy from that belief system, from my energy field. So I'm going to set the intention to close that gap up. What happens if I don't close that gap? Sometimes other belief systems might connect back up. Other things might grow or sprout in that area that I don't want to have. And that can create a bit of a messed up sort of sometimes belief systems if they're allowed to connect back up into maybe different belief systems as well. So I'm going to close that subconscious gap. Okay, so that subconscious gap is closed. So now I check. Now I'm going to check if there's any new empowering beliefs I can install. Okay, so there is some new empowering beliefs. So with these, I like to sometimes we can go to the opposite of what came up, but I like to go back to the charts and ask what's best to install. Always feel like asking the subconscious what it needs, what I need, is very important because I feel like it's trusting that higher power to know what's best for you. So I'm going to go and get what empowering beliefs I need to install now. So I'm going to identify this first empowering program. Okay, so it's in the form of a positive program. So the positive program is basically the same layer as the negative programs. Okay, so this first positive program is I take responsibility for myself. And I feel like this is, I feel like sometimes in sessions, these new empowering beliefs, sometimes there's a message behind these. And I feel like what I'm getting through is coming through is I take responsibility for myself. It's almost like I judge myself. I don't allow other people to judge me. Like with obviously what the faulty core belief come up, the despair anchor here that I don't know anything. It's almost like I'm going off other people. I constantly need to prove myself. It's almost like I'm looking at other people's. I'm looking at how other people value me through other people's eyes. And instead of just taking responsibility for myself and knowing that I'm capable enough, I'm smart enough, I'm good enough, I know what I need to know, I have the ability to be happy, I deserve to be happy, I deserve to succeed in life, I deserve to have success. All right, so I'm going to install this one, same as how we remove beliefs. So installing it, we just do exactly the same process, but we set the intention to install it. Okay, so that first empowering belief is installed. Okay, so we have another new empowering belief. Okay, so the next layer is an empowering core identity. So even though we didn't have an identity that came with this, we can install a new positive identity. Okay, so this next one is when I get triggered, I take a moment to breathe. And in a sense, with what we're working on today around this topic of I need to be tough and impenetrable, it's something that we're getting triggered, but we're like the moments we get triggered, we're trying to put that armor up straight away. And that's how I feel sometimes. It's almost like I'm trying to work out. I might be feeling anger come up, for example, but I feel like I've got this, as soon as the anger comes up, I need to put that wall up, and almost like show my emotional toughness that I'm not going to show this anger. Or if I feel sad or if I feel worthless, for example, again, like it's almost like when I get triggered, it's triggering that wall up. It's triggering. It's causing that alarm system. It's triggering the barrier, the protection, for me to be strong and tough and impenetrable. But instead of me triggering now that impenetrable wall, or that tough, strong wall there, it's leaving that wall down, but just breathing and letting myself know that I'm safe in this moment. I can feel what I need to feel. I don't have to be that tough, and I don't have to have that wall there, that tough and impenetrable wall to protect me and protect those emotions. I can let them come through. I can feel them, but I can breathe them and understand it without putting that barrier up. So I'm going to install this new empowering quote only. Okay, so they're the only two new empowering beliefs that we need to install. So with the session as well, once we do a session, I usually check the processing time. I do this in a number of hours. So after a session, if you've never had a session before, when we're clearing this energy, we're releasing this heavy energy, and sometimes it's obviously in an emotional sense, sometimes it's a thought energy. All these, everything is energy. So everything physical we see, everything non-physical we see is just energy. So when we're releasing these from our energy field, these heavy energies through these beliefs, these emotions, etc., it's almost like carrying a bag full of that's full, and as soon as we take out stuff and we make it lighter, so it takes us a little bit of time to adjust. It's easier to adjust to the lightness, but sometimes it can be a little bit different to sometimes if we do have a lot of stuff there, to be able to rebalance and to rejig things. So it's just like that. It's our energy just sometimes takes that little bit of time to balance up, and sometimes some of the negative symptoms of processing can include tiredness, moodiness. Sometimes these emotions or these thoughts might come up, and it might sort of give almost like one last hurrah and just make you trigger you in a sense. That's sometimes the negative side. Sometimes there are physical symptoms as well. It can trigger, sometimes if we're almost like we're kickstarting a detox as such, where kickstarting some maybe organs or glands that haven't been working properly for a little while, and it can feel a little bit different because they're up and firing. and that can create almost like an unblocking of the system. So it's like restarting a pump that's blocked. Once we clear the blockage, it's almost like going to splatter out all the old stuff that's maybe caused the blockage as well. So energy works very similar in those ways. So with this processing time on that, sometimes there's negative, we have some negative symptoms to go with it. Sometimes there's some positives that we might feel like lightness, like something has just left us, and just like we're free, we're in flow, we're happy, we're in this good mood that we can't just get it, wipe the smile off our face. And that's some of the things that can happen on both sides of the scale in a physical sense as far as feeling after a session. But a lot of the time, you might not feel anything as far as physically goes, but sometimes it's just subtle changes in your perspective. So, like as I said at the start, where with these beliefs, when we're removing these, we're allowing us to see different things in our perspective. Sometimes things that we're not able to see because we have these lenses on around these faulty beliefs. So when we remove and peel back these lenses, it allows us to have a different perspective of the world. So sometimes we will see things that are different. Sometimes other people will interact with us differently. Sometimes in a situation we will react differently as well. Sometimes we might have got really triggered in a situation, and then this time we're able to act a lot calmer in a similar situation. So there's some of the subtle changes, and you got to realize sometimes those subtle changes, they might only seem subtle now, but over the period of time, once time catches up, those changes can create massive changes as well. So with the processing, I get this in hours. So it usually takes on average around 3 days. So I'll get this processing for me. Okay, so it's coming up 82 hours for that session to process. So that 82 hours doesn't mean that I can't do any more work on myself in that time, but it's just allowing that session to process. And sometimes I'll find I'll be able to work on myself tomorrow, but sometimes I find that there's a point where I sort of, the body needs time to catch up on everything. Sometimes like if you start to overwhelm it, I remember an experience I had early on with the emotion code. I just wanted to release as much as I could on myself, and I released so many emotions, and I was feeling great, and then all of a sudden I released sort of one too many, and I ended up having to almost like go to sleep for a couple of hours. It just hit me so hard. And that's when we can just overwhelm that subconscious and just try and push it too hard. So the important thing is just to sometimes take it bit by bit and subtly, and we've got to peel back layers to give our body the best chance of sometimes healing. Sometimes if we were to take things away too quickly, it can overwhelm the system. So with this processing, usually when I work with clients, most of the time will be on once a week. Sometimes I'll allow twice a week if I feel like it's important, if we have a time frame. But usually once a week is a good time to allow that session to process, and gives sometimes the next layer a little bit of time to expose itself, and we can get to we can keep going deeper and deeper into each session. So that was a belief code session, and that's basically what you've seen there is how the belief code sessions are run. So at the end, I usually wrap up and with the session and explain how things connect, and a greater level of awareness around that issue. So obviously we've worked on, I need to be tough and impenetrable for myself. And obviously these beliefs that have come up, I need to give in to get approval, don't deserve happiness, I need to rescue others, I deserve to suffer, I constantly need to prove myself, I'm too stupid. A lot of these things are stuff that really resonated. It had resonated in my life, and even still to some point now. Also, the work I've done, energy work and other sort of work, it's a lot of these are not as strong as they used to be, but they still sometimes have a little bit of a resistance there. I still feel like that, and sometimes that, like the faulty core belief, for example, I'm too stupid, is something that sort of, I always feel like I left school when I was 15. It wasn't that I was dumb or anything. I was always one of I was in the top classes, but I never had the drive to be like the smartest kid, or I just didn't really want to do homework. I was too busy out playing sports and whatnot. But I was always smart enough, but I just felt I wasn't as smart as like the top kids. And I just had, to be honest, I had no motivation to get there. But I've always sort of looked at that situation sometimes and think, well, maybe I don't deserve my success because I'm not smart enough, or other people are smarter than me, so I don't look, I don't know it all, and maybe I should be, maybe I'm not an expert, so I shouldn't have an opinion on a certain topic, and maybe because I'm too stupid, I can't. It's almost like I can't allow myself to earn lots of money because I'm not an expert. I'm not good enough. There might be somebody else that knows more, and make me look stupid in a sense. So that belief has always been something that is really been underlying. So I'm glad that's going today, and the constant need to prove myself. That was another one that up until probably a couple of years ago, a sense of always wanting to get in and prove myself, prove my worth to other people, and really judging my own worth of other people's opinions. And when we do that, it's very hard to please everybody, as you know, and to prove yourself to everybody. And the thing is, like, when life was good for me, I'd be around people who would praise me a lot, and who love and really appreciate me, like the hard work. So, for example, work and relationships, and when I was with people who were one of those people who were happy with me and gave praise and gave feedback, and I was high, like I was high as a kite, and I was flowing because I felt so valued. But we get these situations where we put ourselves where we have maybe bosses or partners, relationships, friends, that where they're never good enough. And then that's if we can't get a reaction. And that's what it was like with my parents. It wasn't as if I was doing the wrong thing, but it was always, I felt like they were never sort of outwardly show love, or never say I'm proud of you or well done or anything like that. And I always felt like as a kid, I always had to prove myself, continue to prove myself, because I never knew how good I was. And I kind of feel like that belief has held me back a lot. I feel like through my life is just not knowing how good I am, or how much value I can give to other people, how valuable I am to other people, and relying on their opinion or their judgment as such, and how they're feeling towards me, rather than relying on my own self and knowing that, you know what, I'm valuable to you. And if you don't see that, well, then that's your fault and not seeing that. But I'm able to walk away from the situation. Sometimes I'd continue to try and prove myself, even though I'd never be able to prove myself, like similar with my parents as such. And that was sometimes the pattern. And then the more you need to prove yourself, and the more you're not getting that validation, the harder life becomes, because you're getting emotional, you're getting upset, all those sort of things, because of the limited feedback we're getting, the negative feedback. So thank you for watching. I'll leave it that for today. If you have any questions you need answered, feel free to reach out to us by email, info@corehealing.com.au, or if you'd like to work with us and to uncover and remove some of your own limiting beliefs, and find some of the patterns that are causing certain behaviors to almost like keep coming up in your life. You can go to our website, corehealing.com.au, and on the packages page, you'll find a range of our packages and prices on there to be able to start working with us. All right, thank you for listening today. Hope that's helped in some way, and I'll look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you.